Meanwhile, a series of signatures on a piece of paper had slowly but surely turned into practical steps towards military cooperation and collective rearmament within NATO. Indeed, the growth of unity in the West was such that the Russians, though still breathing threats, realized that their pressure was inducing the very opposite of that disunity on which they counted. And so for the free world, an historic night. The night when on the Autobahn leading to West Berlin, the barriers were pushed aside for the first time in 9 months. As the trucks and cars streamed forward, so the railway destination boards read once again, "This train for Berlin." But if the Russians believed that the lifting of the blockade would cause the West to lower its guard, they were mistaken. NATO had been born, and until the East displayed a vastly different spirit, NATO was to stay. No stopping now. As yet, forces were still weak, but as soon as possible there must be built up a strong defensive shield. And what now of Berlin? Mayor Reuter and the Berliners, having won with Western help the Battle of the Blockade, now began the process of placing West Berlin onto a basis of economic prosperity. A city still an island, linked with the world only by the arteries whose continued existence had been so hardly won. But now, through them, West Berlin was to draw strength, to make itself no longer just a fragment of the city, but a unity within itself. Yet, still across Berlin as a whole, there was much traffic over the borders. On the overhead and underground railways, Berliners came and went. True, the sector boundaries still loomed up, but they did not prevent passage across the city, though it was passage under difficulties. At the eastern sector border, the trams, though continuing on, nonetheless were forced to change both drivers and conductors. While at this border, too, anyone passing had first to change his money. For the East did not accept Western marks and vice versa. But at the Potsdamer Platz, on the very border itself, watched by the police of both sides, still a steady movement both ways. Why not, when all were Berliners? But there were many passing but one way, a steady stream of refugees to the west. A steady stream, unceasing since the end of World War II, but growing day by day as life became more intolerable under a communist regime. The island of West Berlin had become the staging point for the free road to the west. To all but the most prejudiced, it was obvious that all was far from perfect beyond the Potsdamer Platz. And on the 17th of June 1953,